yesterday. I don't know if you picked up on that, Jim, because you were talking about the same time she mentioned that. Did you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Amber is blown away by the social ledger, but that is a very often the case when when someone comes in and they look at the where am I here? When they commit to an activity, or they click on the eyeballs. Oh yeah, and this Zoom room is a link here. But when they, we look at an action here, it looks like we need to add some, we desperately need to add some activities here that are relevant to what we're doing in our.
Well, this is the general channel, Jim. There aren't a lot of activities to be done in the general channel.
Yeah.
This is more of a conversational channel. There's more working channels.
I know, but the main channel should suggest the activities that, the major activities of the community. Now this is the BYOID project, and we can see like the Know Yourself doc, which we can look at here.
See, that channel doesn't even have a goal in it.
Okay, we can see that we have a couple of people have committed here. You see, this is in the town square within the BYOID project, which is one of the circles. We have the New Earth Global down here, which has much less committed activity. We have the
Art Chain
video team here.
Oh yeah, the video team. That's my project, Michael.
Okay, this is the Divvy DAO, and looks like most of the activity is in the identity channel here and in the video production group. This is the town square. So each channel is a circle within this realm, which is part of the whole social ledger trial. And then we have the dashboard, which we can get with the click on the palette here. And this is sort of like being made into the outside of Mattermost interface. And
I like to call it the planetary instrument panel.
So here we're looking at the tiles from the Bring Your Own ID Town Square channel. And these are the same things we saw in Mattermost. Like we can, from the dashboard here, we have links, activities, and there, we have actions, we have documents, we have links, we have goals, we have norms, we have jobs, and we have contracts. And you can see the green check mark things that I've checked. Okay, you can see certain things, social ledger, OAuth aggregation. Now I see this 100% up here, which means that I'm the only one committed to this that has.
How do we join these things?
Basically, you set a sweat level from a little, a little involvement to
Perspiration level.
Perspiration level, right? What's your commitment level? And these you just check. Okay, it's sort of an approval or
A yes or no commitment.
Or you're promoting it. Like somebody added a BYOID project log. I support that, so I checked it, that we should put into the log all of our activity. Attend BYOID work studies. Okay, I put in a commitment. Maybe I should make that a little bit higher commitment. I can click on, since I religiously attend the meetings, it didn't zoom, I don't know why.
Yeah, there's something wrong with that particular Zoom. Jim, show the members. Do a members and then click on the googly eyes. That's always the impressive one that I like.
Okay, so we look at the /dig members.
You misspelled it.
No.
Do dig team.
Easier to spell. Same thing.
Yeah.
Team members. Okay, this shows who the members are, what their sociocratic role is, what their level is, if it's set, which you can set it for others or for yourself. Anybody can do everything, anything. It's king, everyone's king here. And if you can look at the network graph, okay, and we can see connections between people. And this is getting a little busy with this many people involved. But we can see I have very strong connections to a lot of people, which I guess you would expect. And then we have people like, where is it? We have people hanging out here who are not connected to very many people.
Yeah, I think the social graphs and all, like I work with a lot of these things too. It's great because it's very intuitive for people to get involved with it without just seeing like Unix style things. It's just much more obvious what it is. I think that's what's going to set it apart. Like the D3 one is very good because it's very intuitive. And I think...
D3? What's D3? I forget
the library you made to do the circle packing.
Ah, yes.
D3, yeah, there's a couple of libraries. I don't know if the D3 is what we use. You think it's the D3? I forget. I keep forgetting. I don't know why I keep forgetting.
Well, I know I'm going to ask a few
Okay.
people I know to help out with that if they want. Is that thing open to people or is it still closed?
The social education is open to people.
Yeah. Are you talking about the development, Michael, or the actual use?
Well, both, but developers.
Well, we need developers in the worst way. Anybody that can help with PHP or JavaScript or Go or what else, Jim?
Well, I guess those are the main ones right now. I want to move toward Rust. There's some things in Rust, but we're not really
Yeah, we would like to make a lot of these meta map things a lot more useful. Like this one has already become too busy. When it has fewer connections is when it actually.
Right, but we can see here that Amber, is blown away by the social ledger, but you can see she's only connected to two people, me and this is Amber over here, and apparently they don't have a full name set. I think I'm gonna change this to display the Slack, the username, since a lot of people here don't have a full name set.
Yeah, hey, Jim, I noticed if you right click on any of those circles and then go to the the examine command where it pulls up that other screen, you can actually see the info. Yeah, what is it? Inspect.
What does it show?
Well, you didn't see it shows your name in there, but it will also show the name of people that aren't shown now.
Right.
For instance,
Jim Scarver here, as opposed to when I hover over it, it says Jim White Scarver. It's just my full name, not my Slack name.
Right.
And many people don't have the full name set. So you're right. If I wanted to see who this was, I could inspect it.
Well, okay. So,
but we need to change that so everybody is shown there on the screen.
Yeah, well, for Dig Life, there was a reason for not doing that.
Why not?
Because I think it was the wrong decision. Joachim did it so that people could be anonymous.
Yeah, I understood. Yeah.
Since this is publicly available, since this is open, we shouldn't. Showing they people who want to be anonymous set an obscure username anyway. So. I don't think it's a problem showing the username here instead of the full name.
that's okay. So if I wanted to bring up a topic, if it's okay.
A what?
A topic. Have you heard of Stellar, XLM Lumens, and the Stellar network?
No.
Yeah, I love it actually.
So we're working on a document for basically a similar thing like you guys are doing anyway. They give, I think, up to 2 million USD or US dollar in XLM, and they're a big non-profit. They're a big non-profit blockchain.
Yeah, they were like the first to propose a Byzantine fault tolerant blockchain that would be efficient and basically using proof of Byzantine fault tolerance as opposed to proof of work.
Yeah, and they're also very well established in the U.S., which is one of their main strengths. For legal reasons, it's like a very good, as opposed to some of the ones that I liked that all got shut down. Like they're only in Asia now, but like they don't like those like dark silk and those things. They're not a fan of those here. But XLM is pretty much has a high grade, and they offer money too for business plans. So I was thinking, if you want, we can present it to different foundations and ICO it, or we can otherwise, work with lots of co-ops and then try to build like kind of what's called an aggregated cluster, which is like a very important thing for finance, which says like, there's enough demand to justify investment. You know what I mean? So I've worked on that, and so we can reach, I know people in XLM and Stellar, so we can reach those groups if you want. I don't know if that interests you or not, or if that's like out of scope.
Did I show my screen for the network graph?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Yes. Close that inspect screen though, because that's not useful anymore.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you saw it.
And Michael, we're also looking at merging the functionality of the social ledger's graphical presentation of metadata. We're wanting to expand that into projects like new maps and meta maps, which have presence on Holochain. Are you have you
priority project right now is integrating Holochain, which integrating MetaMaps, which will provide an awesome user experience. MetaMaps separately has a great user experience.
Yes.
And integrating with the social ledger will really launch it. Well, it has the potential of making it independent of well, let's put it this way, useful, independent of the communications environment, but the communication environment where you do the work is an important part of the social ledger, whether that's Mattermost or Matrix or Discord or IRC.
Ignore that link I just put in the chat. That's for DeckStack. That's not what I meant to put there. I was wanting to put the Holochain invitation in there. Let me get that.
Okay. So I was planning to do the XLM grant thingy and kind of run that for what's it called, my project. But I wonder if you guys wanted to know about if you want to include it in that or anything.
I think it's really cool, but I'm sort of overcommitted to things now. It's certainly something that if we could find people interested in it, that it would be good to do. And
yeah, we could make our the tools that we have available here now. We can make them available to this effort, but they're just, we really are overextended in the number of projects we're trying to.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say is I know we have mostly a community in Europe. That's mostly where our community is. And, we want to try and kind of bring together a lot of these groups to actually, just get the basic sort of social interaction down so we can kind of, not have Jim do everything or you do you know what I mean? Because usually everyone's on an island and then they all have the same idea, but they want to build it on an island. You know what I mean? Because I've worked with a lot of these groups and I've noticed that sort of issue where you have the same sort of concepts at the core, but nobody sees.
Yes, a lot of these groups are talking about the idea of co-creation, which I feel is one of the concepts that will help us understand that the nature of these inventions we're making is really a co-creation. We're all building these ideas on the shoulders of giants. So the idea of owning these things is sort of ultimately it's kind of ridiculous. But there is a lot of momentum right now to bringing projects together that are trying to solve the same problems and allowing them to build efficiencies in attacking these problems. Identity is the one that seems to be rearing its head right now.
So if we solve bring your own identity, would that solve the other problem of aggregating groups?
It's a big job. That's really the issue here. Bring your own identity means that we'll bring on certain identities at certain times, like Ethereum identities and social identities and Mattermost identities, and and a lot of it is OAuth 2, okay, which is the big problem we're working on now, is OAuth 2, so that as you navigate across communities, it basically, keeps cookies in your browser so that it knows what your identity is in each of these communities, and it can act on your behalf with your persona in that community, so that you become who your identity in that community when you enter it. And there's, it's the single sign-on. You can sign, you log in according to the service discovery of what you use, what you require for someone to act as you on the network.
Yes, and let me emphasize this OAuth 2 problem. It's really kind of a key problem for us right now, because we need to get this done so we can move to the stage of development where we could actually start putting in some features that we already know about and have been promised, but will in my humble opinion, will just sort of blow this thing wide open. And that is specifically, I'm talking about a command that Jim has been talking about for the last week, which is this dig when command.
Yeah, the event processing is what allows the social ledger to become a process automation environment where you reactively define the behavior of the social objects by how you operate on them, and how patterns in the flow of the discussion and the commands can trigger activities.
And I agree with everything Jim said, and I'll go a bit further. It gives all of that to the members.
Right. It's user programming. And here again, it's a big job. At first, it'll be simple. Ultimately, we want the programs to be in Rolang. Essentially, we have the mathematicians create the building blocks in Rolang, which we put together with the simple correspondence to the process calculus. By incorporating, in essence, the rules that are created by behavioral typing mathematically in the process calculus. We're starting off with functionality. The user can create rules. The problem is that in a decentralized system of communicating processes, there is no ordering necessarily of the processes, and this is why blockchain programming is so difficult, because you don't know what order things will happen in, and when you think through the problem and you write the programs, you're assuming a certain ordering that's going to happen. And when you get things in other orders, bad things can happen, like the DAO exploit and the multi-sig exploits and such. But what we can do, what we'll be able to do in the short term is define, processes. In the longer term, we'll be able, from the bottom up. In the long term, we'll be able to control processes from the top down. And that will give us a trustworthy environment. And this is what our chain is about. And because the virtual machine doesn't matter, we can do the same thing on holochain. And we can implement things in an actor model on holochain. And then basically use the same mathematical techniques that our chain uses to run on an actor substrate, the Rosette machine, which is, involves two-phase commits and other things in order to relate the actor model to the process calculus, which you can learn about from Wikipedia. You start with the actor model and follow the links. So that's our objective. We need to get the identity basically on holochain, or we need to get it, period. Initially, we're implementing the decentralized identifiers in Google Firebase, which obviously is not a final target, but it works. We're trying to.
What about YubiKey?
People can use that. We have no problem with it.
I was thinking I could just get YubiKey. Our plan was to authenticate people with YubiKey.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Our plan is to let people use what they want.
No, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, because it's a very complex issue. That's why, I didn't want to deal with it, because it distracts me from my objective.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
When I developed at AT&T, Shannon Labs was a product that did voice and face and device authentication. You didn't need a YubiKey. You got very strong authentication. YubiKey is sort of an interim solution. Now, I don't know why the politics, meant that AT&T never came out with a product. I mean, they called me back after I was done to do demos, I integrated voice into Gemalto authentication. They called me back to do some demos of that. Basically, people left and things changed. They sold technologies. So I spent 5 years developing several products, none of which ever got released, even though they were in production and tested in production.
So we're going to use those?
They won't. I can't use them. You know, it's
Why not?
The technology I developed is now owned by Mobility within AT&T, and they don't want any competition, so they're not going to let us use them.
But they don't even use it. AT&T is like one of the easiest networks to jailbreak. I mean, that's like, why didn't they use that when they made it?
Yeah, we did. We would have been ahead in so many things. In fact, most of the scientists from the labs went off and developed products for Amazon, the Echo, and other companies that came out with the products that essentially I was working on.
Those horror stories from corporate R&D are everywhere.
Yeah,
that's funny because that's exactly where I work.
Well, they told me when I started there, in the labs, they said nothing from the labs will ever become a product. And I would say, well, what about this? Oh, they're traitors. But yeah, it's hard. This is the problem with scaling large organizations, and we can't really blame AT&T because we have the same problems in our communities.
Yeah, I know. I work with like several development groups even and hacking groups in Europe, and they all want to do the same thing like this pretty much, like collaborative, same level thing, like nobody, like kind of just everyone's on the same level working together, right? And then everybody wants to make their own like thing, like their own island. And it's been a big annoyance because it's like if you explain like just it's in agent models, you treat each individual as an agent, right?
Yeah.
It's also called it.
See, with the social ledger, what we do is, there's a connection formed whenever two channels, whenever two teams create the same activity. It connects them across the circles. Whenever they link to the same thing, that connects them across the circles. And so, and what we advocate is the sociocratic double linking structure between organizations, and that enables a collective intelligence, or it can enable a collective intelligence. But because it enables coordination, cooperation between the teams.
But the tools are really the key. Once the tools are there, people just naturally get into it. That's just how it works.
That's not exactly true, because getting people to use any collaborative tools is like pulling teeth.
Well, like Facebook, you have to present it in a way that is very like psychologically rewarding. And in this sense, like I feel like you have like the back end stuff under wraps. You know what I mean? Like how you're gonna do all the channels and structures, like the architecture of it. But like when it comes to other fields, other people did a really good job fixing other things. And it's just like a matter of how do you get these people to build it together, right?
Well,
like
that's what we're trying to do in the social ledger trial, and it is difficult. There is not a single collaborative tool that I've introduced to any group ever, or that's been introduced by others, that has been accepted by the group, or that is easily accepted by the group. generally what I found is if the leader of the group uses it, everybody else will. It's like I've been responsible for, many development projects, design and development, and I introduced tools for cooperation, for task management, for coordination, for reporting, whatever. And I was only successful if the boss used the tool. That was it. Beautiful tools. Like Considerate, like DSlider, like Lumio, like Track, like, you name it. It's getting people to type /dig is almost impossible, even though what we're going for is this co-creation thing. All these communities give lip service.
Well, it's not lip service. You've been working in computers since they were existing, right? Like most people, like for example, I work with a lot of these groups on GitHub, and they're all like farmers in Wisconsin, and like elderly people, lots of more groups like that who want to make these sort of things. They're not very apt on those things. You know what I mean? Like you just don't, you know what I mean? Like it's just not gonna be something you can expect. It's just like the key. I don't know. Like I feel like if we could just make these groups kind of aggregate, at least on Exchange. Exchange is usually one of the strongest formings of consensus, right? Like people like to exchange things. In Facebook, it's messages and pictures, right? In farming, it's usually commodities or things you grow. So like if we could kind of get this, or my project is really, we want to build it on that level, like get the exchange happening on it, and then trying to show how you can have exchange without like stockholders or without sort of hierarchical control. Like you can have it functional control, because it's funny, like nature itself does not have a single hierarchical control mechanism. There's not a single thing in nature that has it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and one of the the killer apps on Holochain, I believe, will be trading, which would be decentralized trading.
I think in that sense, that's where it's going to become like financially sustainable, and it's going to become adoptable, like highly adopted. Just because people, yeah.
Once you have atomic exchange of resources between consenting parties, you don't need any central authority.
Yeah, and you don't need it in nature either. It's funny, it's only in like primate social groups you see like that clear hierarchical chain. And it's like you can see it in human society so blatant. It's like sticks out. When you see other primate, like...
Could you turn your camera on?
My laptop is closed.
Okay.
I'm looking at you guys on a monitor, not on my laptop, so I don't have a camera actually.
Yeah. It's one of the things that is well known is that face-to-face communication creates the highest collective intelligence, and which doesn't happen in these asynchronous chat groups to the degree that it happens face-to-face.
Next time I'll set it up so I can do that.
Yeah, the next best thing to face-to-face is a high bandwidth communication where you can, where all the nonverbal clues actually convey the deeper message, and communicate uh, uh, better. That's all I can say. I mean, voice is better than text. In some, it's not that one excludes the other, but it's that it's good to have both. You know, the asynchronous text is good. Now, if we could do video asynchronously the same way, more or less, we would. It would create a greater collective intelligence, according to what we know now, or what we've done now. Sorry for that interlude, but
Well, that's a good. If we like, say me and like anyone who's involved with that, say agricultural stuff, if we could like use these tools, could we like find a way to like I can get people, developers, and these because I want to do it for my project, and I would rather just use your tools since it's the same thing that I promote anyway. Like it's why do it twice, and then we can like so if we can get like hundreds or more of these like sort of agricultural groups together and like city people and start like getting everything on the how like you think we could do that?
yeah, you know, I mean, a good test case is can there be cooperation between
No, it's not. It's not trivial.
Patrick's project and your project. Can you work together on a solution? Because it's such a big problem, and you know, we tend to think of a simple solution, but there's, you know, when it comes down to it, I mean, there's really much more to it, and we really can't control the environment. You know,
Well, you're sitting in a controlled environment right now. It's just a matter of perspective because we think of it as normal.
Yeah, but you know, whenever the Earth has gotten this hot, there's always been an ice age, and we can't stop that from happening. There's going to be another ice age.
Well, it's not a like a sort of like a big grandiose thing. It's just agent behavior. If in each agent or an individual learns certain actions and they coordinate well with other agents in a concurrent sort of process, it just naturally things go, you know, they just naturally go in a way you wouldn't expect them to. Like you said, there's a higher collective intelligence. And it's not only humans, other species, even bacteria have that. It's not, you know, it's literally not just people. It's just we don't see the world like other organisms see the world, so it's just that way.
We have an advantage in that we can do it in a less wasteful manner. In, you know, consciously evolving. But the map is never the territory. And there really are no complete solutions. We're always approximating better and better.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I don't think this will be like a very, I don't know, high-end, you know, big thing. It's, say like I've talked to all these people like in different rural areas of America. They want to like work on these sort of ecological type things together. You know what I mean? It's not like they want to do something you know, out of bar. You know what I mean? Like it's not like something. It just there's no mechanism to do it right now, right? Like there's no way. Like so it's like if there's a co-op there or a farm there, like how are they going to coordinate with each other? Any exchange or communication, or like build trust? You know, like it's just not there. So it's like for me, it's just a matter of how can we do these tests and kind of make it happen? Because I can get the people and the developers. I know a lot of them, and I'm probably going to talk to more of these blockchain groups and ICO groups to see how we can get like more of a liquidity for it. But you know, I don't think it's anything big like that. working on, in the sense like it's very much a coordinating people and exchange of things between people problem that is just not possible to do with the current sort of economy. But I was wondering what your guys' views were on how we could, approach a problem and use our current tools to make it happen.
Well, basically, it's a matter of becoming part of the social ledger trial. And the social ledger is much bigger than the Digital Life Collective, where we developed it so far. It's the tip of the iceberg. And an identity that includes the ledger of what you've said and done together, and the web of trust that develops. The first thing to determine is, do we want a channel in an existing hold-on, or do we want to create a hold-on, a domain, for your application? In which case we would, in either case, we need to name it.
I think we need a new one.
Yeah. So we want to name it. We're creating the language of social objects dynamically. Okay. And that's one of the issues, is that the language is different in these different hold-ons, and it can never be made the same. We're never going to agree on what democracy means, even, or capitalism, or whatever.
But those are all useless words because they don't involve an individual or an agent. They're just like BS words. Like, they don't have a clear logical definition or an ontology where they're relevant.
Now, what does Patrick call what they're doing? He's calling it geoculture or something.
I can't remember. We do have it in our notes from a long time ago.
I should, I've heard that word so many times, I should know what it is. I'm just having a mental block. But, that might be a name for the team. Of course, we can always change it. We could call it just calling it agriculture might be the best thing.
On the holochain, there's that group called local permaculture. Is that related to this concept?
Yeah.
No, it's not permaculture, but I know a lot about permaculture, and it's a lovely topic, but this is more aquaculture.
What? Aquaculture?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's just ecological. Basically, these are like the BS words that are just taking studies in ecology and giving it a social name tag for people.
Well, isn't aquaculture about...
it's like permaculture, except it's involved more with aquatic systems, right? Like it's not like permaculture is ecological engineering, where you're optimizing like this environment, right? Like you're kind of geoforming the environment to be sustainable and healthy, and you're not trying to openly rip it apart like current industry does. And you can create something that works well with people while preserving the environment. That's more permaculture.
So corn farming is not part of this agriculture.
No. How do you put it? It's more like it's a topic you would not know unless you read like the later stuff. It's not like, it's, how do I put it, like you're engineering very complex agricultural systems for many diverse agent groups. You know what I mean? Like, so there, you can do a lot of farming in the sea, for example, and you can reuse a lot of the stuff you farm in the sea on land, and it's all done just by having all these exchange mechanisms. You can create a very sustainable and high yielding system, for say food production, material production, energies, like algae, for example.
Oh, yes.
You can create waters with algae and fish that can support almost any plant on Earth, right? So it's not really like stuff that, it's not complicated. It's just like something you have to see.
Yeah, I'm
And
just
when you
trying
see
to.
it, it's obvious.
I mean, it could have to do with farm because you have water irrigation and the water systems. I don't know if that's, whether you're saying that corn production is included or not.
No, definitely. Traditional farms are like feudal age things where somebody owns a land, they kind of just produce the same thing, and then they distribute it to usually one area or a few areas, right? Like they don't really have a,
Now, what
there's
about,
no idea of individual
so is
action.
fish farming included in what you're talking about?
Yeah, of course. All of those things are, the idea is though it's not owned by like a corporate entity. It's more of a individual entity, like meaning every individual is their own corporation. It's not like there's no such thing as an individual based models. There's no such thing as a collective group. Everyone is.
So do you want to set up a team? Holy mackerel! Are we supposed to have a holochain meeting now?
Well, okay, let's move on to that.
Okay, guys, I gotta run, but yeah, let's talk about this more later. Next week at the same time, if not before.
Yeah, I guess we'll send you an invite to the team if we set it up.
Okay, well, how about just have one called agriculture and food distribution?
Well, Michael should have some input on that because I'm not sure that.
It's
Michael?
okay. We don't need to rush it. We can, we don't have to rush it. Well, I just introduced it today. You can reach me by email in the chat, and we can work on it over the following month or later. And we don't have to rush everything just because I started it.
Well, we can take, if a few people take little steps, it will self-organize. This is a framework for self-organization. You don't start with, you don't need to start with the details worked out. I think what Plant Eater is suggesting is that we make an agricultural domain and an agriculture channel.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your idea, Plant Eater.
No, I'm glad to have your feedback. It's not, I don't feel like you stepped on anything. But yeah, I mean, I do think let's have something bigger that includes what Michael's doing, which is a huge project, and then also what Patrick is doing, which is a smaller product, and it's more like it's not as sort of revolutionary or as what Michael's doing, but the kind of the tokenized economy and the distribution mechanism of it is
right, and we're going from what is to what Michael's envisioning. Okay, and we sort of have to connect them up the ladder to the future.
Okay, feel free to reach me by email. We can always talk by there.
Okay. In case we don't talk to you before then, will you be able to be here at the same time next week?
Sure.
Okay. Cool.
And Michael's in Divvy Dow now,
Yeah, he's there.
and I guess he should join the Dig Life Lab team. I don't know if he has to, but he might. It might be good. For discussing the social ledger, or being a participant in the trials, and and we might set up an agricultural team. I guess I should talk to Patrick or whatever, but I think that would be a good idea.
Well, this is like the main sort of economic foundation for these things, is the agricultural stuff. Like even in human history, that's just been the root cause of why people in the first place tried to collaborate. You know what I mean? Like, because it's not something you can just dodge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really like it, and I think having the agricultural domain is important. I mean, now we have Amber and the social planning domain, and we have people in the technologies domain, co-creation. What we end up with is the structure of let me show you. Whoops. Where is it? Where we, have cycles that bring us to sustainable, vibrant, healthy communities free from hunger and poverty. And we have the levels of organization. And I see these as all as interlinked circles. And we're building all the inputs into the mobilization of communities, the food security. This isn't necessarily complete, but this gives you an idea of at least one visualization of how we may see the cycle of change from a more or less global perspective. Cycle of sustainable change.
Okay. I'm definitely in health and nutrition.
Yeah, and there's a lot of interconnections. And we can make the collective intelligence sustainable by creating sociocratic link circles. And that's the thing that every community breaks down at the Dunbar number. we don't have large-scale cooperation that's effective. And this whole thing, everyone's doing their own thing. It is representative of each community having its own culture. And without the translators that are a member of both communities that link them, they don't coordinate, they don't cooperate. And if you're willing to cooperate, Michael, and enter a few /dig commands, and you can inspire other people to type /dig commands, we can move forward on a global effort of the social ledger, which exists independent of whether we reify it or not, whether we organize it in or not.
Well, we as individuals should take control of the social ledger and
right. Create the organization.
Right. It's the social ledger exists whether we do anything about it or not. And as it stands now, the social ledger is being controlled by the giants like Google and Facebook and Twitter.
Right. And we're taking control of it. So that we control our stuff, our identity. We own it. We take ownership of it.
We own it
to the degree we want. I mean, there's a lot we do that we want to be public, but things that don't need to be public are best not public, because they make us vulnerable. I never agree with what I said yesterday. But I guess it's still okay that it's public. I'm not in a position where contradicting myself is going to get me discredited to the extent that people are unwilling to change their mind because of what they've said in the past, whatever.
Well, and that's it. If you are acting on behalf of these large organizations, there's actually very little you can say these days. So these organizations are communication and conversation destroyers, not conversation creators.
Yeah, and the right to be forgotten is interesting as well. If you at least with refutability is a control you have. I mean, somebody can say something about you or something that you said, and you can refute it, whatever, and that you are in control of your identity. User managed authorizations control what you expose, and the software can support that. So, if I try to copy something you said from a context that you claim is private, I'll at least be warned that, I'm not supposed to do this. I mean, nobody can stop you from taking a screenshot and sharing anything, but the software can ensure that you're following everybody's rules about their stuff, and if you break their rules, you lose trust.
Okay, sounds lovely. So we'll meet next week, right? On the same time?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll try to get some people and I'll try to bring them on if that's all right.
Super.
That'd be
Yes,
awesome.
and I ask, tell them to feel free to ask any questions, and tell them to try things and type the dig command, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Um, one thing we find in people coming into this space is they have the habit of just looking at what's been done before, and not trying new things themselves. These tools that have been built, we really haven't explored them fully yet. There's still things that can be done with this that no one's tried because we don't have time.
Yeah, we're doing sociocratic self-management, and when you have a leaderless system, everybody has to be a leader. Okay, everyone has to take a leadership role, and they have to take action, and that means setting goals for the group, doing all the things, setting norms for the group, defining the activities the group is in, committing to activities. If people aren't willing to do that, it's just a couple of simple /dig commands. But if we can't get them to do that, then
Okay, we know, Jim.
Everybody's waiting for someone to tell them what to do or something. They're used to the old paradigm of leadership, and getting them into the new paradigm where everybody leads is the challenge. All right, enough said.
Okay, Michael, I just talked to Patrick and I sent him your email address, so he'll get in contact with you.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I'll talk to you guys next week, if not before.
Bye, Leah.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Hey, Gary, it's a pleasure to talk again. We talked before, but not frequently enough.
Yes. Yes, likewise. And, we're really excited about this, and hope you can come and share some of this with us.
Yeah, because, it's like most of these people are elderly sort of farmers, and, sort of, young adults and adolescents who just they're kind of like stuck in this modern U.S. society, which is kind of fallen off the cliff a little bit. And
Yes.
They're looking for like some sort of this sort of thing, and nobody believes it.
I'm almost thinking that having a Facebook app that connects to the social ledger might be a way to get people in.
Well, it's like a well-known thing in the sort of, computer science community, that everything that people use is pretty much public. So to me, Facebook and that is good because it generates so much data. You can learn about what's going on in the world. And, the company exists because it's exploiting that, but that's just the nature of the way it's designed. So I think it's better.
Chickens by powers that don't have our best interest at heart.
Well, yeah, but there's really no alternative. Even if they had a good interest, they couldn't make money off it. So there's no way they can stay with a good interest very long. You know what I mean? So it's like our solution is really to remove that sort of mentality that you need to be that for profit means doing something wrong, when instead it can mean doing something good. You know what I mean? Like, I think like a lot of people, if they saw for profit as doing something good, it would dramatically change how people look at self-leadership and taking your own initiatives and how to use money in a benefit, especially cryptocurrencies in their own way, because, you know, like fiat money you cannot use in that way, but cryptocurrency you can use however you want. There's virtually no limit on the exchange. So it can be pretty much a sociocracy or a stigmergy or anything, characteristics wise. And I think in that sense, like, it's just a matter of having the structure to get people and connect people. And I think that I can do that. I've been doing that anyway, but I don't really have the tools for people to use, but you guys do. Some other people worked on the exchange platform. They have that. So if you look around, everybody's done the work already. It's just a matter of getting them aware that we have the same kind of end goal. You know what I mean? Like, we're not here to, we're not competition trying to
Well,
do
you know, using a commercial product, you know, could be a problem. But you know, I guess that's I guess, you know, you're on the Bittrex. That's where your exchange is, right?
No, that's for health. That's like another thing. The current one, I think we mostly use old Linux. It's just all Linux stuff, IRCs and things like
IRC?
that. You know, basically a Tor style network.
Yeah.
You know, like server exchange network. It's not really a front end system at all. You wouldn't even be able to use it without knowing what it is.
Yeah. Well, we should, you know, so when we create the channel for aguaculture, we need to create a bridge to IRC. That's no problem. It's a no-brainer. And hopefully that will draw people in to Mattermost where they can type the /dig command themselves.
Well, I think like these fireside meetings are the big thing that I want to get people into, like meet Jim and Gary. You'll see, like, they're very similar to you guys. Like, they have the same sort of thing. You'll be surprised. There's a lot of people with that. So it's just a matter of getting them all, you know, talking in small groups under 6, right? That's a Dunbar number. And then,
no,
like,
the Dunbar number is actually, you know, the size of a tribe. It's about 135 people or something.
We're not going to get 100 people in one call.
Okay,
but
the ideal group size is actually 4.5.
Oh, so we can get like 4 people, like, and then just get everyone to talk with you guys, and then, you know, by that way get everybody set up to use it and explain, you know, the etiquette stuff, and it'll work out. It's just so I'll try to get people for next week, and I'll get it all that stuff.
I don't think it would hurt to have more observers. You know, people.
I think they're like you. You'll find that you're just like you. You're not gonna see as much of a difference as you think. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, I think it's just the idea of participation and taking your own leadership role is the definition of everything in this.
But the community is now in IRC, right? You know, I'm thinking more
the
of
community. It's everywhere. Like, it's usually just fragmented groups on different social medias and different
so by
things.
creating the channel, we'll be giving them a place to cooperate, and we can create a token, you know, essentially Divvy style token, a proof of cooperation with no par value, and we can award that for cooperation.
And that's the beautiful thing. We started this project as an economic research project, and it was really fascinating that currency inherently has no value to speak of. Like, gold has no value to speak of. Like, the only thing is it's a psychological value that you attribute to it. So as long as you understand you can control your own psychology and give value to whatever you want, as long as other people have that same value, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? You don't have to, like, science would not get very far if people did not value the intellectual things.
There's a lot of research and development in currencies, circular currencies, mutual credits going on in Holochain and Dig Life. Open money is one of the social ledger enhancements that is gaining. We have 2 people on the team right now. We get a 3rd person on the team, and that development will happen pretty quickly. The main thing is, team building is the difficult thing that we need to do. And, the easiest way to do that is if anybody puts /dig team and their @username to go on the team in that channel. That you have at least 2 leaders, or you have a guide and a scribe assigned, at least one, to represent the group, and to and then links to related groups, people that are on this team and another team that have a common goal or interest. And that, by building that, we develop the collective intelligence. Or, we reify the structure, the organization, okay, so that it doesn't break down at any number.
Well, can you explain Holochain?
Holochain is don't chew. What are you chewing? You're eating the rug. Don't eat the rug. Oh, well, it's bye-bye rug.
Holochain is a DHT, a distributed hash table, where the nodes all have their own private DHT, is my understanding of it, as opposed to something like Bitcoin or even our chain, which will be everybody will agree on the same Jim, help me out here.
Well, it is a global DHT, but essentially every user has their own blockchain or ledger, okay, which corresponds to the social ledger of activity for that person. And
Holochain is much more dependent on peer-to-peer communication and actions than.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't have a global consensus mechanism. The way that transactions are entered on the ledger is by signature, so that if the 3 of us are involved in a transaction and we all 3 sign it, boom, it's approved. And then it gets verified on the network by whatever, it gets hashed, and whoever the verifiers are for that hash on the DHT verify it. But it's self-verifying in that it has the 3 signatures. And it communicate hashes. It doesn't have to communicate the nature of the transaction.
Okay, so it's basically, that's like an agent-based modeling, primarily what you're modeling.
Yeah,
interaction between.
It's an agent-based model.
So we kind of want to.
Every app has its own chain of activity.
Yeah, that's the big part.
Yeah,
Holochain is more of a platform for distributed apps that use this.
exactly. Okay, that's the other part of it, is every chain has a program in its Genesis block that determines the behavior of that chain. So it can be, it doesn't have a singular, it's a blockchain.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's exactly what agent-based modeling is. It just says every individual cluster is its own thing, and there is no sort of mega cluster. Because if there was such a thing in mega cluster, you wouldn't have diversity in nature. You know,
Right.
you would just have one.
You know, so you determine what apps are run on your node.
Okay, that's perfect. Then Holochain is like fine. That sounds like a perfect current. It's a blockchain with currency on it.
Not exactly.
Yeah, not yet.
There is no native currency. Oh well, I shouldn't say that. There's two things. There's Holo, which is the way that a means by which we can buy and sell our capacity.
Yeah, our node capacity.
Okay, and Holo makes boxes so that you can buy a box for $99 that you just plug in, and it runs a node for you on the network. And they just had or are having an Indiegogo sale. I guess Gary and I both bought boxes.
I haven't bought yet, but I will. I'm going to buy 2 of the nanos and 1 of the mid-range ones.
The $200,000 goal they set on Indie, they made in 2 days. So it's pretty popular. You know, a lot of people are buying into it. And I didn't want to buy a big machine to run Holo. They're going to come out later with a crowd sale of the Holo token, so to speak, which is really just a mutual credit type currency. It's not really it's not a scarce commodity, and that the more
it expands and contracts according to demand.
Yeah, and the size of the network.
But I think, Michael, you will really find a lot to like with Holochain.
Yeah, I think considering it as a platform for the stuff you want to do would be prudent. And the idea is, the transaction cost would and resolution time go to almost zero.
Okay, perfect. I think I'm going to start researching it, and I'm going to start, calling people over, and we'll get something going. Like, I'm confident it will work in the sense, like, I know Exchange is the primary driver for interaction. So it's just a matter of having the tools that, exactly like on the screen, that kind of give it some sort of semantics that are not, overly, how do you put it, centralized. And then, okay, so yeah, I'm going to keep on it, and I'll see you guys probably in the same date tomorrow at 10 a.m. What's it called? I have a meeting I have to go to right now. But I'll see you guys on next week, and you can always reach me anytime you need me on my Gmail. So I'll
All
see you
right.
guys.
Well,
Enjoyed it, Michael.
welcome to Divvy and the Social Ledger and Holochain. And
My pleasure.
hmm?
My pleasure. Thank you guys for inviting me and keeping an open book. Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's really lovely. So, yeah, I don't want to be late. So I got to go, but it's really a pleasure. Next time I'll have the camera ready so you can see me. Okay. Sorry about this time.
That's all right. You know, whatever bandwidth we can get is good.
Yeah.
Voice is not the worst. Okay.